Yes, I do, Michael. It is about the new Netflix show, Cuties. Cancel Netflix has been trending all day. It's now number 3 in the UK. And so it's I know you said you've briefly seen it, but obviously we covered it in a cold open like weeks ago. There's this show which has been released on Netflix. I believe it's French. That was accused of being, accused of sexualizing children. And my God, there's the videos of it are just hilarious. And like it's and you know how we talked about before how Hollywood or the entertainment industry doesn't really have a problem with pedophilia. That much.
No, yeah, they certainly don't.
They don't. Really.
The only problem they have with paedophilia is that they're not doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Or rather, they are doing it, but it's only when one individual member of Hollywood is not doing paedophilia, they have a problem with it then because they want to be doing it. That's the only problem.
It's true, so true, and just the amount of right wing people on Twitter just going after this thing is so funny. Because obviously they're doing the cancel Netflix thing, and just I saw one tweet just absolutely made me laugh. It was this guy Mark Dice. He was responding to a Donald Trump tweet who says like Trump is tweeting, "We'll be doing a news conference live from the White House at 3:30," and Mark Dice replies, "Joe Biden will be streaming Cuties." It's just like no, they're really
can't argue with the facts.
Here's the issue: they're really using this like, this is fucking great for them, isn't it? To prove that the left are all demonic pedophiles and, sexualizing children, because there's the QAnon thing about, all the elites are pedophiles, and, this is just adding to that. And, God, they're having an absolute field day out there. But yeah, like, if you've seen the video, I mean, that's the thing. They're right, yeah. It is sexualizing children. I can't believe it was broadcast on Netflix. But yes, it's... like I said before, it reminded me of something from Always Sunny in Philadelphia with Frank, and it's like Frank's Cuties doing a beauty pageant, and it's like that come to life, that kind of scenario. So it's just so ridiculous, and just absolutely proved QAnon right. I think that's the takeaway here.
I guess the good news is that with the whole QAnon pedophile thing, it allows for weird men on 4chan to feel like they are sexually well adjusted, because even they can understand that this Cuties thing it's pretty dodgy, isn't it? I mean, to be honest though, let's be real though, if it was an anime, they'd be fine with it.
Yes.
Anyway, okay, there we go. Hello and welcome to Select and Reflect, the movie review podcast where we look at films that have come out in the near and distant past. We give them a couple of watches and evaluate them beyond first impressions. I'm your host Michael, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Luke, and this week we are celebrating the 25-year anniversary of the release of the film The Usual Suspects by watching The Usual Suspects. Luke, why don't you tell us a thing or two about The Usual Suspects?
Sure thing, Michael. So, The Usual Suspects is a 1995 neo-noir mystery thriller directed by Bryan Singer and written by Christopher McQuarrie. It stars Stephen Baldwin, Gabriel Byrne, Benicio del Toro, Kevin Pollak, Charles Palminteri, Pete Postlethwaite, and Kevin Spacey. It was released on August the 16th, 1995 in the United States, so a little over 25 years ago. And of course, you mentioned, Michael, we were doing this movie because of the 25-year anniversary, but it's also one of the most famous, it has one of the most famous endings of any movie ever, and has been, parodied quite a bit and is known in pop culture. And obviously we'll get into the ending. But first, Michael, can you guess what the budget was for The Usual Suspects?
5.5 million.
6 million.
Oh.
So that's a very good guess. Well done. And the box office, how much did it make?
55 million.
No. Only 34.4.
Okay, that's still not as bad as I thought. Well, actually, no. I went for in the middle of where I thought a reasonable range would be. So yeah. I mean, these movies we've done a couple so far this year that came out in the mid 90s, obviously, because we're doing some 25-year anniversaries, and they have a box office of 35 million. Like this movie, around there, maybe a bit higher, maybe a bit lower, but they have staying power in the culture, which maybe is due to the awards
that they got, like
Yeah.
this movie. The Usual Suspect won an Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay, and Kevin Spacey won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor for his performance. And, this movie ranked the 35 greatest screenplay of all time. Again, it seems like that kind of thing mattered in the 90s. Like, these awards could really bump up a movie.
Yeah.
Now, if a movie that only grossed 34 million got those awards, there's no way it would, even if it had a twist ending, kind of like The Usual Suspects in terms of how unexpected it was, I guess, that ending, it would not have the staying power in pop culture like this movie has.
No, yeah, you're right, basically. Back in those days, people had taste. And
They did have taste, Michael.
This film won some awards. It's got to be good. And you know what? Even if they didn't spend loads of money on it, they understood the importance of art. Whereas nowadays, everyone only wants to watch their Marvel's Avengers films, am I right? Not like us, we're sophisticated.
Well, obviously, movies like this still get made and watched. It's like how famous a movie gets.
Yeah,
like this movie,
that's true.
this movie is not. This movie is very famous despite its low box office totals. I am making the comparison: if a similar movie was released today, or The Usual, just take this movie and release it in 2019, say, it would not have the staying power that this movie has had.
Who cares about Knives Out? Am I right?
Yeah, well, Knives Out is a bit different.
No, it's
because
not.
it's just,
but I don't
just
know.
all over the place.
Maybe.
But that's the thing. Like, no one's making parodies of Knives Out, are they? Nobody's going to do that because it's a very obscure movie. And it doesn't seem like that would be the case in the mid '90s because people would, watch it on TV or whatever, because there was only like
5 channels.
Yeah. Well, maybe not in the '90s actually. Wasn't the '90s when there was cable?
Yeah,
I'm sure there
not
was.
in my house though. Hey Luke, remember when you'd go to play your video in the VCR player and the person before you hadn't rewound the video back to the beginning? Remember how annoying that was?
That was so annoying. But Michael, now we need to get on to whether we like The Usual Suspects. So, did you or not?
Yeah, I did. I liked it.
Yeah, I have to say I liked it as well, unsurprisingly. This was, when I first saw this movie, I can't remember how many years ago it was, I was like, yeah, this is really good. And I still think it's a really good movie. So, Michael, we'll get into nitpicks. How many nitpicks do you have?
I've got 2.
Okay, you go first.
Yeah, one of them's a bit crap though, so
unsurprising.
Yeah, I'll start with the crap one actually, even though it's not quite in the right order. Because I feel like it is, I didn't know. Like, I just wanted to say that it didn't really make sense to me how hostile they were being in the story when Kobayashi is offering them 91 million. But then in hindsight, I'm kind of like, well, they kind of do have a reason because they have been jerked around. So that's why it's so crap. I wrote it and I just felt like maybe I should. But I've also got coffee wouldn't help with dehydration. Of course, as we know, coffee actually makes you need a piss and a shit more, and it actually drives moisture out of your body. He says, I really need a coffee because I get really bad dehydration. Well, the cops should have been like, hold on a minute, Buster. Coffee won't help with that. We need to get you some lemon water. What are your nitpicks? You didn't actually mention how many you have, or do you have none?
I have I guess 2 nitpicks. 2 nitpicks.
Okay.
So first one is the cops. They get 5 guys in on trumped up charges at the beginning of the movie, obviously, and that this is all part of Kaiser Soze's master plan to get them all together to work for him. But someone should have suspected something, I think, right from the beginning. Not just because they're all, hardened criminals, but because there's not one black person there.
Oh yeah.
And you're telling me that the NYPD would not use this opportunity to arrest and try and intimidate or assault or do some shitty thing to someone who is black who they don't like. I mean, come on, there's a missed opportunity there. So I think that's that is a first sign that somebody should have been like, wait, this is a bit weird.
Yeah,
There's no black guy here.
This isn't us. Why are all these men white? I'm confused. Yeah, that's a very valid nitpick. And
I think it is a very, very valid nitpick. And
topical and very woke of you, too.
Thank you. My second nitpick, okay, this is, when I saw this, of course, when I first watched this movie, this was before the allegations of Kevin Spacey,
yes.
and obviously I knew he was in this movie. Then, of course, I remembered the guy who's directing this is Bryan Singer.
Yes. Bryan
Singer and Kevin Spacey. Oh me, oh my. I mean, how about that for a 1-2 punch?
I know, yeah, it is really classic.
That's the Jordan and Pippen right there of their day for sure. And I wrote on my nitpicks, pray for the young male assistants and interns working on this movie. Pray for them.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, that must have been a lot of stuff. I guess that's the irony, that the actual production was probably itself a crime scene.
Well, here's the thing, Michael. Then what I did was I typed in The Usual Suspect to see if there's any stories, because of course it had been the 25-year anniversary of it recently. And I found this article in USA Today, which I'm going to read now. Co-star, this is the guy that played Keaton, the Irish actor. He said, Kevin Spacey's behaviour led to temporary shutdown on 1995's The Usual Suspects. So this was incredible. This is back in the day when Kevin Spacey wasn't even that big a star. And, one of the reasons why he was cast is because he wasn't that big a star. And, of course, he got an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor off this, and that's what led him to become one of, the biggest stars in Hollywood. But, yeah, what's incredible is this, even before he was such a big star, he was doing it, and he literally stopped production. So here we go. This is from the article. Kevin Spacey caused production to shut down for 2 days due to his predatory behaviour. Byrne, this is Gabriel Byrne, told the Sunday Times that he and the rest of the cast and crew did not understand the reason for the shutdown. Spacey had been accused of making advances towards a younger actor. Byrne did not name the castmate. This is a quote. It was only years later that we began to understand that the production was closed down for a particular reason, and that was because of inappropriate sexual behaviour by Spacey, he recalled, noting that although people dismiss his behaviour by saying, that's Kevin, no one on the set understood the depth of his predations.
Wow.
Yeah. So, incredible. He also said he worked for Harvey Weinstein and just said, Harvey Weinstein was a horrible person. Representatives for Spacey and Bryan Singer, who directed The Usual Suspects, and his production company, Bad Hat Harry, did not immediately respond to USA Today's request for comment.
Yeah, imagine having that job of, having to represent Bryan Singer. Just okay, well, have you considered the fact that maybe harassing people isn't that bad? There we go. That's my job. I earn that paycheck.
Yeah, I mean, I was joking. I was like, Singer and Spacey, imagine the shit they got up to. But literally, it caused production to shut down for 2 days. I mean, my God, right from the word go, he was at it. Like I said, before his stardom, that didn't stop him, though. That did not stop him. He was absolutely committed to being a sexual predator. So, yeah. This probably only fueled the fire that he got a supporting actor award from the Academy, and didn't face any consequences. And so you could see how he could just go on and on and on after this and do all the terrible things that he did. So I just thought I'd point that out. I didn't know that this article was released at the back end of 2019. Unknown to me that, and I was thinking it, and I was just like, wow, it all makes sense. Imagine that you're such a sexual predator that the whole fucking thing has to be stopped for 2 days. Incredible. I guess it's fitting with his character, I guess, because obviously at the time everyone loved Kevin Spacey, but he was a real bastard, and that is kind of the character he plays in this movie as well. Of course, he's a criminal, but turned out to be the ultimate bad guy criminal. So, Michael, let's get into the plot, I guess, of The Usual Suspects. Is that okay with you?
No, yeah, that's fine. Thank you for asking. We should clarify that on this show, consent is very important, unlike on the production of The Usual Suspects. So we always make sure that it's okay when we move on to a new topic that we both enthusiastically consent. And I do enthusiastically consent to talk about this film, Luke.
Okay, that's good. So the plot follows the interrogation of Roger Verbal Kint, a small-time conman who is one of the only 2 survivors of a massacre and fire on a ship docked at the port of Los Angeles. Through flashback and narration, Kint tells an interrogator a convoluted story of events, yes, you can say that again, that led him and his criminal companions to the boat, and of a mysterious crime lord known as Kaiser Soze, who controlled them. Yes, so this movie, initially, you don't know really what it's about initially. Well, of course, you see, in the start of the movie, there's this guy, Keaton, who's getting shot by a guy called Kaiser. And then you, throughout the rest of the movie, understand what led up to those events. And of course, you get a nice twist at the end. Overall, Michael, I'll just ask you, when's the first time you saw this movie?
I'm pretty sure the first time I saw this movie was when you showed it to us. So yeah,
Really?
Sorry. I mean, I'm just trying to think of because yes,
I know
that is
we watched
true.
that at university.
Yeah. Sorry. I mean, the only question I had there is not that that's when the first time I watched it, but rather that is the because I'd heard of it. Like it was obviously something I'd heard of. But it's just one of those films you hear of all the time, and you just never get around to watching it. And there are a few films like that. But yeah, I remember because I remember you put it on. I can't really remember the context of how you came to put it on. Whether I feel like it wasn't even on Netflix. I feel like you went out of your way to acquire it through some more shady dealings.
Went out of my way. I just found a website where we could watch it. I mean, it wasn't.
I see.
Yeah.
YouTube.com.
Yeah. / the usual suspects. Yeah.
Reddit.com /r/full movies on YouTube. I love that.
Yeah.
That subreddit. Yeah. Anyway, and yeah, we watched it. And the thing is, I did already. It was one of those films. And I guess this is the unfortunate thing, and it's obviously the case. It's kind of the big bane of a lot of twist films' existences is that it's quite difficult to have not heard the twist. And I'd heard the twist. Apart from anything else, I'll tell you how. Because obviously you've mentioned before how this film is parodied a lot. And that's definitely part of where the issue comes from, because I remember when the specific thing I always remember having seen it parodied in, and I always remember this when I watched The Usual Suspects, because I've now seen it 3 times, the Key and Peele, where, have you seen it? Where basically the joke is that, I mean, pretty much the substance of the joke is that, the detective has like a hang in there kitty thing, and the guy who's being interviewed, who's obviously played by Peele, is giving this... It's just like really making it really obvious. Like he's at the club called the Hanging Kitty. The guy, there was a Chinese drug lord there called Hong In-dar.
Yes, there was this guy called Cat Branchman. That was it. I remember that. I didn't remember the rest. But then, obviously, you remember the second part is that, obviously, the detective has just been saying lines like, cut it out.
I think that was the true twist.
Yeah, you've got one more chance. And, those posters are on the wall behind the Verbal Kint character. And so he goes, well played, detective, well done. I think that I was like, oh, that's clever when I first saw it. And now undoubtedly I think, well, that's Jordan Peele probably who came up with that idea. That's the thing about Key and Peele.
We love Jordan.
Yeah, the thing.
Yeah, basically, Key needs to do something, because right now everyone's just like, oh yeah, Peele, he must have been the real creative spark there.
That's what it feels like. It's like, oh yeah,
come on, Key, sort something out.
It's all about Jordan Peele and Key.
Yeah. I guess you could say Peele is the key to all of this.
No, he was. Yeah, Key just feels like the guy who just happened to be friends with this guy who was really smart. So yeah, he needs to up his game. He needs to stop appearing in shitty movies as well. Does Key needs to do something a bit better.
Yeah, I bet Key was behind that. You know that they made that film called Keanu about like the kitten that's like I don't really remember. I never saw it, but it was supposed to be like a kind of buddy comedy, but I think it was really badly received. So I like to imagine Key was behind that. Okay. So that was the one thing he did. Yeah, it's a bit like Ringo Starr with the Beatles.
He's behind Cuties as well.
Anyway, but yeah, basically the point we're getting to is that I therefore, I mean, we're going to talk about twist later. I shouldn't really, I'm jumping the gun a bit by mentioning the twist, but I guess I should just say that in case you were ever going to ask anything like, did you see this coming? Well, yeah, unfortunately, I did already know the twist, but whatever.
Did you find the twist interesting?
Yeah. See, I will say this. Okay, this isn't one of those films where I think there's like, I think this is a bit. And maybe you're going to kind of give me some intelligent answer to why this isn't really the case, but this feels a bit like one of those films where the twist, it sounds weird, but almost isn't integral to the film in a way like, and I'm thinking about, of course, Fight Club. I don't know why I always compare things to Fight Club. But in Fight Club, when you watch the film with the twist in mind, it's a very different experience. And I think it's kind of like, I think also the thing with Fight Club is you kind of get a sense there has to be like kind of a twist that this is leading up to. Because there's too many weird, unexplained things. Whereas in this film, it kind of does feel like you could have had a film about a guy who just recounts a story about a drug deal that went wrong or whatever. I know it wasn't a drug deal, but, whatever it was. And then obviously, essentially, the twist was, and I'm not against this, but the twist ultimately was just having that creative idea of, oh, what if everything he's saying is actually stuff he's looking at in the room and he's inventing it. And I think that's a really clever kind of twist and a really clever thing to have as like a little stinger at the end. But I will say this, for me personally, it kind of feels like it sort of does just function as a little thing at the end. Like when you're actually watching the film, and like I said, I've seen it 3 times now, and there are like a few things you can kind of pick up and really kind of digest in a slightly different way. But by and large, it does kind of play much more like the same film than something like Fight Club does. So I don't know if you're going to disagree with me dramatically there, but that's kind of my opinion.
No, you are right. And that Well, here's the thing. I think overall the movie is a bit complicated, and here's the thing. You need to watch it a second time to appreciate all the little nuances. But yeah, you're right. It doesn't really change the overall movie watching it a second time, knowing what's happening. Because that's the thing. Verbal in the the first time you're watching it and you don't suspect he's Kaiser Soze, he's not really doing much because obviously you don't want to suspect he's Kaiser Soze, and that's the same in the second time you watch it. Because he doesn't really do much apart from a couple of things which we'll get onto. But yeah, I just want to say, here's the issue I think I have with this movie, because the twist can be great, seeing it for the first time, I think. And like the first time you watched it, I think I was aware of the twist at the end, and I knew there was a twist at the end. So I didn't know what it was, but I knew there was a twist at the end. And so that's it's not as bad as knowing it, but it is still not as satisfying.
No, yeah. And also with this film, I feel like the problem with this film is that I will say that I think with this film, to me, it kind of feels like, I don't know if I can completely say this with confidence, because obviously I'd never seen a film not knowing there was a twist, but I kind of do feel like the film would be much more powerful because the twist has the potential to completely blindside you, because it doesn't feel like a film that needs a twist or would necessarily, would have a twist. Yeah. But obviously the issue is then, of course, it means that punch, which I think would be a significant part of what would make this twist so powerful, is missing. And I feel like this is a film where certainly it's hurt much more than I think some other films might be by the fact there's a twist, because you're like, well, I know there must be a twist. So when you find out, the Kaiser Soze thing, you go, oh yeah, that's clever. But
well, here's my issue though. Like, I think because here's the thing, there's a lot of, like I said, little nuances that you need to appreciate. And the first time you watch it, I think, and this was the case when I watched it for the first time, it can be like a bit like, what? How does this play into this? Because I do like to get the full scope of, characters' motivations and who's where and why are they there and all of that. And you can only really get that fully watching it a second time. I think maybe my brain is just too small, but I think that is the case. But the issue then is, of course, watching it for a second time, you then, understand the twist, the twist. So the issue is the movie is just a bit too complicated.
Yeah, it's the old catch-22. No, yeah, I do kind of agree with that. That's the weird thing, because it's kind of strange. And maybe, see, this might be, for the record, I don't think that you have a tiny little stupid brain, because I'm quite bad with complicated plots too. And I will admit a lot of the time, I think it's because I struggle to fully commit myself to paying attention for a whole 2 hours or whatever. But the time I watched this film just now, literally, just before we did this podcast, I was paying very full attention, and I don't think I missed anything. And I was kind of thinking to myself, I was thinking like, it was still a bit of a challenge to pay attention to everything that was happening. But the other thing is, it's kind of surprising that it feels like a lot of the things that happen in the film don't necessarily fit together in a 100% coherent way. For example, because you pretty much have, three hits that they do, and they're kind of related, but they're not like intricately connected, I think would be fair to say, because they obviously do the hit on the America's Taxi Cabs, or whatever it's called, New York's Finest Taxi Cabs, I think it's called, something like that. And they do that hit, and obviously that advances the plot, but it's not like that's, intricately connected to what happens next, which is they obviously get that call to get that guy who is the jeweler or whatever, and then they attack him and they kill him, and obviously that's more directly connected to what happens next, but again, it's not like intricately connected exactly, and that is obviously the final attack on the boat. But to me, it does feel sort of episodic, in that it's not like there's things like numerous different threads all kind of coming together. So it's kind of complicated, but not in like a sophisticated way. I don't know if that's a bit mean, but I don't know what you think about that.
I mean, yeah, it's not really sophisticated. It's just like a bunch of stuff happens. Like there's, quite a lot of things that's going on, and quite a lot of layers. And so I don't know if that's like sophisticated, or then it's just, there's a whole bunch of stuff that you need to really delve through. And Roger Ebert, interestingly, in a review for the Chicago Sun-Times, do you know what he gave the film out of 4, Michael?
I don't know. I mean, I guess, I feel like it would be surprising. Like, I feel like it's probably going to be a surprising answer, but I'm just going to defy tradition and guess a non-surprising answer and say 3 stars.
1.5.
Okay, yeah. That's, I thought it would be surprising one way or the other, but I decided to split the difference.
writing that it was confusing and uninteresting. To the degree that I do understand, I don't care, he said. He also included the film in his most hated films list. In another review from USA Today, there was another reviewer that rated it 2.5 stars out of 4, calling it one of the most densely plotted mysteries in memory, which is true. Though paradoxically, 4/5 of it is way too easy to predict. So there you go. But here's the thing, is it too clever for its own good? And that's, I saw another review in the Washington Post that said, yeah, it is too clever for its own good. And it is because you have to know so much. And I'm thinking of watching it for the first time, or having somebody, showing this movie to somebody who has no idea what it's about, no idea there's a twist at the end, and who isn't, so intelligent they can analyze all these little pieces and understand what's going on for the first time. Like, when we watched that at university, who did we watch it with?
I think Scott was there.
Yeah.
Dylan was often just lying around. Oh, and Kyle was often around. So, and none of those people are smart. Although I will say this, I think that that Kobayashi, I can't remember, Peter Postlethwaite? I can't remember. He's got a weird name. He sounds like a Harry Potter character. Anyway, I feel like he kind of looks superficially like an older version of Dylan. That is my very firmly held belief. I think if Dylan got bald and got a bit older, because it's kind of like the cheekbones.
The nose, though, is different. The nose is different.
Yeah. It's all about the nose, isn't it?
Yeah, the nose is too different. But yeah, that's the thing. You mentioned those 3 people, or just any person. Like, would they get it? Would they fully appreciate the twist for the first time? I don't think so.
No,
and
yeah.
That's the issue, and it is a brilliant twist, but there's just so much stuff in there. And I remember even the first time, or rewatching it again for this review, I had completely forgotten about Keaton's girlfriend, who's a lawyer, who is integral.
Yeah, that's probably. I would say this. That's probably the most complicated thing, I think, or that's like the thing where it's kind of like the hardest, because that is a thread that runs throughout the whole film, and obviously something where at several points it's kind of brought up in a way to have serious impact on the plot, but you've got to kind of be focusing on it all the time, all the way through.
You have. So here's the thing: she's called Edie, his girlfriend. She was put on the case with the Argentinian guy, which is obviously the guy who knows about Keyser Söze. So then, according to Keyser Söze, or according to what Keyser Söze wants to portray, Keaton would look like he knew the information that the Argentinian guy knows about Keyser Söze, and therefore it would look like Keaton set up this whole thing to kill the Argentinian guy, and so Keaton was the one who made sure that his girlfriend was working on this case, but obviously it was Keyser Söze who made sure that Keaton's girlfriend was working on this case. So therefore, he could frame Keaton as Keyser Söze. It must have been incredibly lucky for him that he found this fucking ex-con who had killed himself before, who was notorious for being this fucking murderer, who had a girlfriend who was obviously a lawyer, a criminal lawyer who could get put on this case for this Argentinian guy. So yeah, very convenient for him. I don't know how many people that exist. So that was good. But yeah, that's the thing. That's what I've just explained. It can sound a bit complicated right there. You have to really delve into it. And it's a key part of the movie, because obviously at the end you have the cop who's, saying, no, it was Keaton. It was this guy who's Keyser Söze. And, his girlfriend plays an integral part in that. And obviously you find out his girlfriend was shot in a hotel in Pennsylvania. So yeah, overall, you need to really... Again, I completely forgot about his girlfriend, after watching it for the first time. You really need to get into the nitty-gritty of stuff to fully appreciate the twist and fully work out, this is what Keyser Söze was doing. And, like I said, I'm very interested in characters' motivations. So yeah, that is an issue. When you understand it, you can appreciate it, but, it's very hard to understand it for the first time.
No, I kind of agree. I do think, there is something to be said about the fact that holding the audience's hands, and I use that term loosely because obviously if you talking about literally holding, well, not literally, but there's degrees to which it's appropriate. But I do think what a lot of people will ignore is that it is appropriate to a degree. So obviously usually when it's it holds the audience's hands, using it as kind of like an insult. So it makes the audience feel stupid because it has to not let them understand the sophisticated twist themselves. But in this case, I would argue this is an example of where it should have held the audience's hands more, and that would have been appropriate. And also I think it probably would have enhance the experience of watching the film. because I think it's kind of there is something satisfying about seeing things come together in a way that you can kind of work out yourself. And the issue with this film is kind of you have to put it together painstakingly over several watches, which means you never really get the full experience of seeing it all come together in one coherent story.
Yeah,
it's kind of just like it's like doled out over repeated watches and stuff like that. So
yeah, and that's the thing. None of the characters ever ask like why us. Like there's McManus, the guy who wears like the black turtleneck, Hockney, the guy who's a mechanic, Fenster. That's it.
Yeah, I know his name's. He's Benicio del Toro.
Yes,
and before he was famous for looking like he does, and he talks so weird, so funny.
Yeah, he does, and we'll get onto that when they're in the lineup scene.
Yeah.
Overall, that's the thing. It's like none of the guys ever ask, well, why us? And because it's a question that would be nice to explain to the audience. I kept thinking, well, why them? Why did they just choose like these random people from New York City? Obviously, like I said, Keaton was very specific. He's a guy who could pull off being Kaiser Soze theoretically, and he had a girlfriend who was a criminal defense lawyer. That's why Kevin Spacey picked him. But why those 3 other guys to do this? And it's apparently Kobayashi says, remember in that scene where he's telling them, you've all stolen from Kaiser Soze.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Those 2 had stolen from him relatively recently, so maybe that's why they were picked. And they were also good thieves, good at their jobs. And they mentioned they talked to what was he called? Keaton. That was I don't know.
Oh yeah.
His name. They said, well, Keaton, you did this like 10 years ago, and that was like, well, why are you just pulling him up now if you did it 10 years ago? Surely there's some other recent guy who wronged you, but because they needed him specifically,
yeah, exactly,
because of who he was. So yeah, again, that all makes sense, but it's that thing is never explained to the audience, and it would be good. I was thinking that at the end of the movie, so when it cuts to Kevin Spacey walking with his his limp, just before it goes into a normal walk, if Kevin Spacey's there's a flashback and he's talking to Keaton, and he's basically saying, oh, well, Keaton asked, why us? Why did you pick us for this? You clearly orchestrated all of this, but why us? And obviously he explains that, he needed you because, of your girlfriend, and he picked those guys just because, they did steal from him or something. And obviously he, that is, they were just unlucky, I guess. But yeah, so that is kind of underpinning the whole reason why they're all together, and it's not explained, and you kind of have to work it out afterwards. And that's the thing, like, if I think of other twist movies like The Sixth Sense, and when it's really easy for the audience to get, like, he sees dead people, Bruce McClane. What's he called?
Bruce Willis. I can't remember the name of the character.
Yes, Bruce Willis is obviously dead, and he doesn't realize it. It's a very easy concept to get. That's why the twist is so good. And even the twist in Memento, which we had a look at a few weeks ago, it's easy to get. Like he wants to kill this guy because he's pissed off at him, and so all along. We were looking at this card that says, do not trust this man and his lies. Well, he wrote that because he was pissed off with the guy. So, it all makes sense. This, you, like I said, do have to really get into things and think about it more after the movie and watch it a second time as well. That helps to understand the twist. But then, of course, as we said before, then the twist is undercut because you already know what happens at the end.
Basically. And I actually had a few things also to say about this. I think one of the things I found weird, and maybe this is stupid, but actually, okay, so I wanted to bring this up. This is like, I almost wanted to put this as a nitpick, but I thought, it was very related to the twist. I thought, like, it's convenient. Within, literally, they go, who's Kaiser Soze? And then it just so happens that Kevin Spacey is right in the middle of telling the story at the exact point where Kaiser Soze gets mentioned. And I was almost thinking, like, that should be a real good indication.
Yes, I thought of that, yes.
Yeah, it was like really funny to me. It's just like, who's Kaiser Soze? Well, it happens. That's literally what the story was just about to be about. And it implies, like, that there could have been a very different reality. It would have been, it would have felt more realistic if it would have been like, who's Kaiser Soze? And we'd be like, I'm getting to that. It's not Kaiser Soze. I didn't know about him until later. And then maybe, the film continues for about another 20 minutes. And then we get to the scene where Kaiser Soze is introduced. That would have been more realistic. So yeah, you kind of see Keaton get shot, like, at the beginning of the film. And I know it's kind of like, You don't literally see him get shot, but you see like a guy standing over him. And the thing is, and this is the key thing, it's implied that what we're seeing in that moment, in the kind of flashback at the beginning of the film, is reality. That's not somebody telling a story, that's the actual event as it unfolded. Like if you see something and it's not explained to you that someone's explaining it, then you would just assume it's reality. Which means that kind of you would think, ruin the twist insofar as, because it's kind of a double twist at the end. Like you're supposed to have the twist of like, Keaton is the one responsible for it all, and then obviously find the big twist at the end that is actually Kevin Spacey who's the one who's responsible for it all. But that seems weird when obviously we see Keaton at the very beginning of the film in a scene which we're supposed to interpret as being literal and as real and accurate, and he's in a position of weakness, and it's very much implied that he does get shot. And I think so I find it kind of weird that it almost seems like the film kind of shoots itself in the foot by making it so that kind of makes the fake twist, the fake out, a bit less credible, and I thought that was a bit strange.
I mean, yeah, like apparently Bryan Singer said in the commentary track, we see what happens, 5 minutes into the movie, then the rest of the movie is spent trying to, undo that, and it's a bit of a weird way to go about it.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay,
yeah.
There's fancy old Bryan Singer. I don't know why I said Brian.
But you that's the thing. You do know when the cop is saying it's Keaton who's Kaiser Soze. It's not true, and you have to know another twist is coming because of what you saw in the beginning. But yeah, I mean, you can do that to have more of an impact, to really get the audience questioning themselves. Obviously the Kevin Spacey is actually Kaiser Soze. He's meant to completely pull the rug from out under you, and this is kind of meant to just try and like tip you over, I guess, a bit. But it doesn't really have that impact because, like you said, we saw at the beginning, he's getting shot by a guy called Kaiser. So how does it make sense if that is reality and that indeed is portrayed as reality? Because obviously that is not being told by Kevin Spacey. But it needs to have more of an impact. They should have let it settle in more. I think instead of being thrust upon it, and just moved along. Because if you really want that to be the twist, and then to have another twist on the end, because of what we've seen before, we have to try and have to somehow believe it. And I remember watching the movie for the first time. I was like, yeah, I don't believe this because what we saw at the beginning. Like, how can I believe this? There is clearly another twist coming. And if you don't want the audience to think that, so the final twist, there is a twist. There's even another twist. You have to hammer that home more, and you have to.
Yeah, and that's especially weird because obviously, like we kind of already said, lots of people going into this film who specifically might not know what the actual twist is, might certainly know that there is a twist. So to have this fake out twist would be a really clever move of like, oh, it's Keaton who's responsible. Like, it's kind of impossible to buy it. So it is a bit, weird because, it's kind of told you it's not true already.
Maybe at the start, if you didn't see his face, like Keaton's face,
No, I was kind of thinking that,
Yeah, like maybe. But yeah, I mean, it just does not work as like, it's just not believable. So yeah, I guess that's a bad. I mean, we have spent a lot of the movie like criticizing it, like for saying it's
it is kind of weird. Yeah,
and saying,
we hate it.
The twist could be done better, but overall, like it's a great idea and it's very well done. It's just like you need to get into it to really understand it, and like we said, that's fine if you want to rewatch a movie again and again. It's fine, that you need to get into it. It's not it's not bad. But the issue is, of course, that, it's a twist ending. So if you know about the twist, then the impact is lessened. And so, that's the issue. You want that's the thing with twist movies. They are meant to be the best the first time you see them. But because this movie is so complicated, that's kind of not possible, unfortunately. But let's talk about one of the great scenes in this movie, which is the lineup scene, Michael. Such a classic
Yes, that is
scene.
a really famous scene, yeah.
Yeah. Apparently the actors were meant to read it straight, but it didn't come out like that. They were just cracking up laughing. Like they were just meant to do it normally, but they were having fun. And I think you can tell because the actor that plays Keaton, Gabriel Bryan, actually you see before Benicio del Toro starts reading out, give me the keys, you cocksucker. He does it in a funny voice. Like you can see before he does that, Gabriel Bryan's laughing. I don't know if you picked up on that. So
you can kind of, that's the thing, you can kind of, you can tell that it's sort of like there's
so why would he be laughing?
Playfulness.
Why would he be laughing if he hasn't said anything funny yet? So clearly, like, it was one of the like third or fourth takes probably of them doing that. And so he was laughing, he couldn't. So that was but it's it doesn't really matter, I guess, because it's a really famous scene and it's funny. Overall, I think that obviously it's a great. I remember watching that for the first time. I was like, yes, that this is a This is really funny. This is good.
No, yeah, I do agree. It is really funny. It does quickly kind of characterize them and make them likable. And I suppose you could say it kind of adds to the, I guess, moral criticism of Kevin Spacey's character, Verbal Kint, because he obviously, it kind of establishes their camaraderie, and it should be a moment where obviously like, oh yeah, they're best friends. And obviously what we actually see is that he's planning on betraying them, but they're having fun, and that kind of adds to it as well. But it definitely really does kind of give a decent indication of the characterization. Obviously we find out that Benicio del Toro can't speak properly, and that's really important. We now know that, so we can understand it and process it.
Yes.
So I did enjoy it.
Yeah, that is a classic scene. I also want to talk about, watching it for a second time. Obviously you can, appreciate things a bit more, and you see how Verbal Kint just edges things along. How it was Verbal who was the one who told Keaton about raiding, New York's finest taxi service, knowing that he would be tempted to get in on that because of what the cops had done to him. And obviously he picks it. He said it was McManus's idea or whatever, but obviously you have to assume it was his idea, and he picked that job specifically to get Keaton involved. And it was obviously he had the plan as well. They go, the man with the plan, Verbal Kint. That was he gets toasted.
No, yeah. I mean, I'm saying that obviously identity kind of already gives away the fact that he is a bit of a sneak. The other thing actually I'll say I like about the Verbal Kint's characterization is that the whole idea of him being like a cripple, so you don't expect him to be a threat, and it's kind of like, there is a scene where like, because you're a stupid cripple, and it's kind of like the association between being a cripple and being weak, and obviously the way that Verbal Kint as a character exploits that, I thought was really clever and really well done.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a larger critique, I guess, of cops and, well, not necessarily cops, of people who are like body language experts, or rather, who want to use their supposed expertise in body language to think, oh yeah, we already know things. Like, we already know about this guy. I can look at him and immediately know if he's guilty or not. And obviously, that's something that still continues to this day, that line of thinking, which is complete bullshit. Like, I remember there was something that happened to one of Donald Trump's like associates in a court, and there was this lady on Twitter who replied, "I was told as a prosecutor, if the suspect looks down, that means they're lying." And it's just like, what the fuck? How can you know that? How can you know if a suspect looks down that they're lying? Just complete bullshit. But apparently that's what prosecutors in the United States and probably in this country were told. And
because they do have that line where it's like, if you arrest 3 guys for murder, the person who sleeps is the person who is guilty. And it's kind of like, it's interesting because obviously
it's the just cops, complete bullshit.
The cop has this like very confident idea of like, I know exactly, I can read everything, I know what's going on. And obviously you find out he doesn't know what's going on.
Yeah,
he gets dunked on.
Yeah, he gets dunked on, and that's the thing with all these cops and prosecutors who think they know everything about body language, so they can determine immediately if someone's guilty or not. Like, I remember reading this article. It was like it was a few years ago, and it was like some cops had a seminar, maybe not cops, like law enforcement, and they were like, we're training people so they can immediately tell if someone's telling the truth or lying, like in a split second, and they have all these tricks up their sleeves so they can tell, if your eye twitches, you're telling a lie or something like. And it's just all just fucking bullshit. That's what I think is interesting about the series Mindhunter. I don't know if you've seen that.
No, I've never seen it. Yeah. I haven't even heard of it.
Well, it's on Netflix.
Okay.
Yeah, it's basically about the FBI, the beginnings of them tracking serial killers, and basically the profiling serial killers. That was it. Learning about, if a serial killer does this, that means he's this, that means he's this age, that means he's this skin color, all of this stuff. And the second season ends, and it's you kind of get a sense like, this thing which was apparently really you're meant to get invested in. It was like, yeah, people have found out about profiling. Cops can catch killers easily. These guys, these mind hunters, they know what they're doing. And at the end of the second season, you get a sense like, maybe this is all bullshit. Because they didn't actually use their mind hunting skills to catch the killer that they were after. And I think that's what this is. That kind of attitude is a really shit attitude, and to have that, because people are different. People do things for different reasons, and this cop saying you're a cripple, you're stupid. I can tell if somebody's sleeping, they're the killer. It's just all fucking BS that they that law enforcement all too often do try to create this kind of thing that they're so smart that they can read people. And yeah, they'd say it's fun to watch all that fucking knowledge and, oh, you're a cripple, you're weak, you don't know what you're doing, all that just fly out the window. When obviously it's revealed that that Verbalkin is actually Kaiser Soze. So yeah, that was enjoyable. I did like that, and I wish that part of the movie was more relevant today, because yeah, really that kind of thing in law enforcement needs to be stamped out as soon as possible, I would hope. Yeah, go on.
No, yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, basically, it does seem like obviously that's just not the way to do it, and I feel like a lot of the time, it's something you don't see that much. Like a lot of time in films, when a cop has like an obsession, it's like this one cop knows, like he's like, I know this guy did it. It's always like, turns out in the end he did do it.
The cop's gut feeling,
Yeah. And in this film, it's interesting to see that be turned on its head. Because in most other detective films, it's always like, I know this guy's responsible, man. I just gotta prove it. It's like, God damn it, Jim, you need a warrant before you go into his building. It's like, yeah, but I know Mendoza's guilty. I've got him connected to 20... It's always an ethnic name. Yeah, no. And then, but then obviously at the end they're always right. So it's like, and they get to have a shootout where they kill Mendoza. But yeah, in this film, he's like, I know it's Keaton, and then it's like, no, it turns out it's not.
Yeah.
You moron. Haha.
Yeah, it's great to have that just turned on its head, and it should be turned on its head. But yeah, like so much of pop culture, in terms of cop movies or cop shows, it's like, this guy, I know he's guilty, and that was the whole fucking thing about this TV show. It was Life on Mars. Remember that TV show? It was about a cop that goes back to the 70s.
Yeah, I do know that. I never saw it, but I had heard.
Yeah, the premise was like this guy who's in a very PC 2000s police force, and he gets put back in time to where cops have to use their gut, and they don't rely on the rules, and they're always right, and they get stuff done. That was the message, and it's just all that shit.
Yeah,
just
good message.
Yeah, it just infects people, and obviously there's racial biases, which I kind of pointed out earlier. There's just natural biases, and yeah, all of that is just it's fucking old wives' tales. And yeah, like I said, great to see that kind of turned on its head in this movie. Also, I just want to point out that another way that Verbal moves things along slightly. Remember, he's the guy that shot Sal in the head. Remember that?
Oh yeah. That makes sense.
So I thought he was worried he wouldn't get the case, so all of the group wouldn't know they had been set up by this Redfoot guy. So they would be very keen to meet Kobayashi, because Kobayashi was the one who told them. So yeah, Kobayashi is the guy who they're pissed with. But yeah, also, Kobayashi can hang it over their heads. That, oh, you killed this person. We know you got to do what we tell you to do. But apparently that's not good enough for them, because he entices them with money and kills one of their associates, or one of the group, Fenster, played by Benicio del Toro. And that's the thing with the Benicio del Toro's killing, like, you don't know whether he actually tried to escape or he was just used by everyone. By Kaiser Soze to make sure the group.
You never can know.
Yeah. And even then they don't comply. And even then they try and kill the lawyer Kobayashi, and then Kobayashi's like, "Hey, look, that's your girlfriend," which you could have just done from the start, really. That would be a good move instead of
No, yeah. Instead of risking getting shot.
Yeah,
he's kind of lucky.
Yeah, like what if they shot him straight away?
Yeah, that's what I'd do.
Yeah, you have to assume again. Watching it again, this is what I'm talking about with all the nuances. You have to assume that. Verbal was like, hey, why don't we shoot him? Why don't we shoot his two bodyguards? Probably a couple of guys that he didn't like, or corrupt, who worked for Kaiser Soze, you would imagine. And then let's get him up into this top floor, the very top floor, and it's the floor just below the one where Keaton's girlfriend is. There you go, boom, done. And that's where you can appreciate watching it. At the
and then he'd be like, oh wait, did I say that out loud? That last part? Oh no, I said the loud part quiet and the quiet part loud.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's the thing. You can imagine him pulling off, this is what's going to happen here, and to make it all look natural, but of course it's not. So yeah, now I think we should talk about the myth behind Kaiser Soze. Kaiser Soze. Do you like how the Hungarian guy says it, by the way?
No, yeah,
he says it like
he
he's
was
Scottish.
An interesting looking guy.
Yeah. What do you think about him, Michael? Is he the devil? You're a Christian. Is the greatest trick that the devil ever pulled? What is the one that he convinced the world he didn't exist? Is that true?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I'm just trying to think if there's been any better ones. I'd say also a good trick the devil pulled was kind of convincing people that they need to kind of try and be better than other people. You know, I mean, if you look at the first ever murder, of course, is committed by Cain against Abel, and it's because he was upset that Abel had done better than him, so he tried to kill him. So I'd say that's another good trick. But I'd say a second best after that would be that that he doesn't exist. I think that's a pretty good trick. So yeah, I mean, are you asking literally? Is he the devil?
Well, do you believe in the devil, Michael? Do you?
Do I believe in the devil? I don't know. I think it's one of those things. It's definitely one of those things which could easily be a metaphor. I think that would make sense contextually.
So you don't think he has horns?
No, I don't. Yeah, I don't think he has horns. I think maybe he has the horn. You know, he's a little sex demon.
Oh, so people who like sex are now the devil.
Yeah, the devils. Yeah.
I can see.
No. But overall, I mean, as we all know, the Satan in the ancient Jewish belief was just the kind of the prosecution in the court of God. So he'd be the person who's like trying to make people be bad, but like kind of basically planting evidence. You know, that was his role back in the day in the old Jewish thought. So I guess maybe you could say that the cops are actually the real devil. Yeah, because they like to plant evidence.
Wow,
can't I go that?
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah. I'm not going to disagree with that. Especially as this.
What do you think, Luke?
What do I think about what?
Well, actually, sorry, I kind of interrupted you. I was going to ask what you think about, Kaiser Soze being the devil. Does he make you believe in the devil?
Yeah, he does. He does. He's the devil. I mean, that's the thing. It's really. I love the mythical element of him, like the cop saying, like, wait, Kaiser Soze? Like it is perfect. But I will say this about him, like. He may be the devil, and he may be like so smart, and like poof, he's gone, and all that shit. But the issue is, why did he concoct this scheme, Michael, from the beginning? Why did Kaiser Soze do it?
Well, so maybe you're going to tell me I'm wrong, but wasn't it just to kill that Argentinian guy?
Yeah, it was. It was to kill the Argentinian guy. Yeah. Why did he kill the Argentinian guy?
Because the Argentinian guy knew his identity.
Yes, exactly. So.
Exactly.
So now the police station supposedly knows his identity. The officer in question knows his identity, but that's not maybe the worst thing, because it can just be a wild theory that this police officer has, like, oh no, this fucking cripple was Kaiser Soze, and nobody believes him. It's like, what? Are you serious? But the Hungarian guy, identified him. He was there at that crime scene.
No, yeah, exactly, yeah. So basically, you know what? Actually, holy shit, Luke, you've kind of I didn't really think about this, but yeah, that's a massive issue, isn't it? Because when you think about it, yeah, the whole point of the film was that somebody was able to identify him, so he needed to kill him. And yet, now at the end of the film,
they've got a picture.
He has been identified.
Yeah, they've got a picture, and he has been in this police station. He has talked to a bunch of people.
and presumably they have video footage of him.
Yeah, well, yeah, on the security cameras, yeah, but like that's
and also they recorded him.
Yeah.
So, one, they have what his voice sounds like, and two, they have him telling the story of all the things he mentioned, like Kobayashi and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So he can literally show them. So, yeah, even the police officer can pretty much prove that this guy was lying, and then they have the picture of that looks like him, and they have the video footage. So basically, he didn't really achieve anything, did he? He basically lost.
That's the ultimate twist at the end. And I thought about this when I first watched the movie, and I haven't seen anyone really talk about it. It's like, well, he's kind of ended up in a worse position. Like, it's, how smart he was, like, fucking over the police officers. But because of that Hungarian guy, who's fucking, who saw him, and now, the police officer, and, he's on camera, like, everybody knows who he is now. So he's actually probably ended up in a worse situation because of this whole thing. And that is something that I've never seen pointed out. And I do think to myself, am I missing something? But no, I don't. I don't think I am missing something. Like, this is a great movie, and I do think it is. I've talked about the complicated thing, is a bit of a problem. It's maybe a bit too convoluted, the plot. But, overall, he does not end up in a better situation than beforehand. Like the FBI guy gets that fucking fax of the sketch of him. And, the FBI guy isn't, like on his side. That's not what it's, that's not the case at all, because obviously he's the one that gets the Hungarian guy to talk about what he looks like. So, yeah, overall, he has kind of fucked himself now. And that is just never mentioned, which I find very weird. So yeah, I thought I just mentioned that at the end.
No, yeah, Luke. I mean, you just mentioned the end, but I feel like you've really, that's a really original thing. I mean, I don't know if original is the right word, but it's like a real thing which I hadn't noticed, and I actually think it's a real big deal, frankly.
Yeah, no.
It does remind me of when it's funny, because we were talking about Kevin Spacey, and obviously I was talking about Seven. And remember in Seven, I was like, he kind of, I was always like, in my head canon, I feel like he isn't actually that competent, and that like basically he's kind of like, he was kind of fucking up, so he kind of just cobbled together this idea of like, oh yeah, like wrath is like because he's angry about his wife being killed, and yeah, so he kills me and blah 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 blah. And I was like, I don't really know if that makes much sense. It sounds to me like Kevin Spacey just didn't really know what he was doing, didn't really have an end game, so kind of just cobbled something together at the end. And I felt like this would add to my theory that Kevin Spacey, he can only play twist villains, or like, you know, I guess in Seven it's not really a twist, but you know, iconic villains who in fact are actually very incompetent. That's like, that would be like a kind of title for like a Cracked video, like why all Kevin Spacey villains are actually secretly incompetent.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, you know, poof, he's gone. You know, that kind of thing that Kevin Spacey does at the end of the movie. And, you know, he gets in that car, you know, he starts walking normally, he lights that cigarette, puts his watch on, sees Kobayashi, it's like, yeah, he's out of here now. Nobody's ever going to see him again. But surely, like, that'd still be the case. He could just do that if the Argentinian guy identified him, you know, because he's in the exact same situation. Like, he could just go into hiding, probably, you know, and that's what he's going to have to do now, because everyone knows.
Except now he's in an even worse situation, because before, you know, the Argentinian guy could have just described him. Now there is footage of him that just exists unequivocally.
Yeah, exactly. He really, you know, you could say, well, it's a message, don't nobody cross me, but you know, like, I think you're probably in a worse situation, pal. Yeah, and that's the thing. He thinks he's so smart. Walking out at the end, like, I just duped these cops. I was just saying names off a fucking wall, like Kobayashi, that's on the bottom of a mug. Skokie, Illinois, that's where this fucking thing was made.
It's a weird thing though, because obviously there is the serious risk that, you know, obviously we talk about the Key and Peele thing, but there's a risk that, for example, somebody could know, and maybe it's like the case that it was like a station coffee mug or something like that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like, I would think there's a genuine risk somebody could know what the brand of their coffee mug is.
Well, it's not him though.
Because like,
is it? It's this guy's coming from another police station.
Oh, sorry. You know what? Yeah, sorry. I'm stupid. I didn't realize that. Yeah, but you know, basically, I will still say, like, I feel like there's definitely some risks with like what's happening, where like, obviously it's a risky strategy, and I feel like that would have worked better if he wasn't supposed to be set up as a some kind of hyper competent.
No, it seems like he's
criminal,
like he's doing
and more like
flourish
instead
thing. He's like
like kind of like the Joker. Yeah, you know, like he doesn't really, you know, he hasn't really got a plan. He's not like he's called the man with the plan, but I almost felt like it would have made more sense if it was like he wasn't the man with the plan. He was the man who just, you know, did what he did to
it to own the cops.
Yeah, exactly, to dunk on them. And I feel like that would have worked better.
Yeah, no, that
or been more logical.
That's what it seems like. He gives this interview, and it's obviously meant to try and make fucking thingy the police officer think, oh yeah, it's fucking Gabriel Byrne. It's Keaton. That's why he's doing this, even though he doesn't have to. That's his plan. But yeah, if you like copy just fucking names off the board, then he's going to think, hey, this is all bullshit, and he'll put him back onto you. So that is a risk. And then just being in that office for 2 hours, it is kind of like he's stunting on him, like he's dunking on him, like you said, and he's
exactly.
Look how smart I am. How dare you underestimate me? But
no, yeah. The other thing actually that I found weird, just on that note, sorry, is that like they kind of set him up as like cold and evil, because it's like basically there's a whole thing about how his wife and children are threatened, and then he basically just kills his wife and children. And I was thinking like, okay, fair enough, but I do feel like it might have made the film a bit more interesting if the person he was trying to kill was the person who killed his wife and kids, and that he was like on a quest of revenge, because I felt like it would have given him more kind of like more of a purpose, I guess, or like more kind of interesting, because you'd be like, okay, he's an evil person, but you know, he was out on a righteous quest for revenge like that. And I feel like that would also explain maybe kind of him. I feel like you could come up with a way of working that into why he kind of is wanting to do it some flourish, because in that context he's not like a, you know, omnicompetent career criminal, but rather he's doing it with a very specific purpose in mind, which I feel like would work slightly better personally.
Taking it from the profiling things I see, which are absolute bullshit, he is a psychopath. Because what psychopaths, I mean, obviously because he's a murderer, but what psychopaths often do apparently is they like to, you know deceive people. They like to know that they like to know about the investigation, because they want to, you know, show to the cops like, hey, I know this. Look how smart I am. Look at this. You know, I'm really close to the case. Look how smart I am that I can get this close and you still not suspect me. So yeah, that's him. And
I've heard, actually, that's the funny thing about, because I heard something I remember hearing was that psychopaths are very bad at learning from mistakes. I don't know if you've heard that, but they're often like they're very bad, and I guess it's maybe because they like don't appreciate. Because I guess, I mean, I don't really know what the difference is between a psychopath and a narcissist, but I feel like they're quite similar, and like psychopath they want to feel like they're the smartest person, blah 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 blah, and that's why, you know, they're not very good
probably don't have
learning
empathy,
from their mistakes, because they don't want to.
Yeah,
exactly. Which is like which would again work with him kind of being somebody who, you know, is just going to do these things for kicks and not really to be this genius, because like we say, ultimately he's not really a genius because he ends up in a worse situation. So yeah, if he's a psychopath, that would kind of make sense. It's just like crazy. Well, crazy is a simplistic term, you know. Let's just say crazy.
Maybe he's like, hey, my face is going to come out anyway. People are going to know. So why don't I just, you know, show everybody how smart I am? You know, have a bit of fun before that happens. Maybe that's his motivation. Yeah, but so overall, there are some holes in the ending which need to be pointed out. So yeah, I think that's probably it. Shall we conclude, Michael? Do you want to conclude?
Yeah, I guess I'll conclude first. Okay, so yeah, this film is good. I mean, we both just said we liked it unequivocally, but I would say an unequivocal like isn't always, you know, just it's fantastic. I would say this film there's a lot to enjoy about it. Obviously, it is an interesting film, and that kind of twist at the end is very... it's a nice kind of jolt, I guess. I wouldn't say, the thing is, I would maintain, it's not really one of those twists that kind of sends waves of new perspectives throughout the whole film. It's more like one of those twists where you're just like, oh, wow. You know, a bit like the twist in, you know, I am your father, Luke. Although in that context, the twist is more interesting because it carries on into the rest of the series rather than just being something at the end. But, you know, like kind of a thing that's just like a jolt, like, whoa, I can't believe that. Which obviously it doesn't really affect your viewing up until the twist. And I kind of think that's very similar with this film. And I do think it is an issue that you do need to kind of watch the film multiple times in order to understand it. And overall, I think, you know, there's part of me that genuinely thinks, you know, this film is good, but there are sufficient issues that maybe even a high 6 would be appropriate. But I think I'm going to be decently nice and give it a low 7. So I think a low 7 is appropriate because, you know, like I said, I mean, for me, like, kind of when you're talking about a film that's rewatchable, that's kind of in your 7 range. I say this film is rewatchable, but I would say there's some drawbacks for it as a rewatchable film. So to me, that's kind of a low 7 territory. If it was like a film that's like, oh, it's rewatchable, you've got to rewatch it again because it's really, you know, just great on, you know, there's no diminishing returns or anything like that. That to me is kind of high 7, low 8. For a film where like this, where it kind of does have slightly diminishing returns as you rewatch it, I can really only give it a low 7, but I'm going to put it above Men in Black. And below Ocean's 13. That's where I'm putting it, and that is The Usual Suspects.
I think here's the thing: we have criticised the movie quite a bit, but you know there are some good scenes in it, and there are, you know, it is clever, like I have said, but yeah, you do need to rewatch it. And like I said, the problem with rewatching it is, well, then the twist is ruined at the end. So that is why this movie was so heralded and why we are reviewing this movie today, is because that twist at the end. So that is a problem. That is an issue for sure. And so, yeah, maybe if I didn't like these kind of movies, then I would say, you know, I didn't like it, but I do like it because, you know, I still like the overall, what they're going for, you know. I do like my twists, and I do like my, you know, thrillers involving law enforcement. I do like that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I think overall, Michael, I'm going to give this a 7.5 out of 10. You know, it's famous, it's great. It does have some flaws in it, though. Not just in the actual, you know, ending, like we said, but in, you know, if you're watching it for the first time, that should be the best viewing, but it can't really be the best viewing because of how convoluted it is. Not going to be as harsh as Roger Ebert, though, because, yeah, I think you're going too far from that with that criticism. So, yeah, 7.5 out of 10 for The Usual Suspects. And, so shall we do some receipts, Michael?
Yes, we shall.
Yes. Okay, so in the deleted Bill and Ted review, we said that, I have no idea.
Well,
we had the receipts for Tenet, didn't we? And you predicted 92, I predicted 84. It was actually 83 on Rotten Tomatoes, which means you had...
Oh, I wonder if it's changed now.
Well, it doesn't matter if it's changed because that's when we did it. So, yeah, I mean, it doesn't...
Yeah, a likely story.
So you had 9 points added to your total, and I had 1 point, which means we were tied on 40. So the receipts for Bill and Ted Face the Music are in. Remember, we're tied on 40. You predicted 85. I predicted 76. The actual answer was, or what it got on Rotten Tomatoes was, 81. So right in between our two scores, but it's just slightly closer to you. So you're 4 off and I'm 5 off. So you have taken a lead of 44 to 45. You are 1 point ahead of me, Michael. Just 1 point ahead of me, which is interesting. And also, why don't we do Mulan while we're at it?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. This is really increasing.
Well, yeah. The thing is with Mulan, it was. It's been released this week, but our scores were so similar, so it's not going to make a difference. 75%.
It's not doing well on the old IMDb, I think. So it's probably Rotten Tomato critics hacks that got paid off. Let's be real here.
Yeah, just like
Yeah.
cuties. Yeah, that's the thing. Or maybe with the cuties, it's their ideology. It's the left's paedophilic ideology. That is because it's got like 90% on Rotten Tomatoes and like a 5% audience score. But yeah, with Mulan, it's kind of the same, I guess. People are downvoting it because of, it's been made in China. People don't like China for obvious reasons. So 75 on Rotten Tomatoes it got. And
wow.
that means that you...
It's been really close
15
both
off,
times.
16 off. So yeah, you move 1 point ahead of me. Even further.
Yeah.
Well, that was... Yeah, our guessing was close, but obviously our prediction was not. So that means your score currently is 59.
Oh, yeah.
And my score is 61. So yeah, the gap is 2. It could all change. It could all change, but still all to play for. So what are we doing next week?
We're doing a film which is very near and dear to my heart, which is, of course, Goodfellas. And I say it's near and dear to my heart because it is my favourite brand of frozen pizza.
Oh, I see. That's why. Okay, so yes, we shall be reviewing Goodfellas because of its 30-year anniversary. And so we have been selecting and reflecting today on The Usual Suspects, as it has been its 25-year anniversary. So I think we've kind of criticised it more than I was expecting, but there you go. It's still a very, very decent movie. And I think the issue is that basically the good things about it, there's not too much to say. It's like one of those films where it's kind of like the good things about it are just kind of the standard things, which isn't a bad thing, but it's kind of like you can't talk a lot about how good it is, if that makes sense. Yeah, that is the issue. Yeah, I think the best way to watch this movie is with watching it with somebody who knows what's going on, knows all the little details, and explains it to you, but not in a way which ruins the twist.
Yeah.
Somehow. If you could get that balance.
Yeah, that would be the...
Yeah. Thank you for listening. Who have you been, Michael?
I've been Michael.
And we'll see you next week for Goodfellas. Goodbye.
Goodbye.